Welcome everyone to another Total War Warhammer 2 online multiplayer replay. Today, thanks to ThePhoenixKing here sending in this High Elf vs Beastmen replay, we will be seeing a crazy High Elf build with only cavalry in melee and no melee infantry whatsoever. So no frontline, so only supported by a couple Shadow Warriors and some heroes. For the cavalry forces, it will be a mixture of Dragon Princes, Silver Helms, and Illyrian Reavers. And in the front, we have 2 Shadow Warriors, and also a Mage of High coming in with Soul Quench, Apotheosis, and a Mage of Light coming in with Shim's Burning Gaze, and a bunch of magic regeneration items. No doubt going for that sniping approach with the magic missiles. Now for leadership, the Lord Tyrion on his Warhorse, with 83 melee attack, 72 defense, buffed up by Martial Mastery. He is certainly a formidable duelist here, especially with the 45% fire resistance, would be very effective to tank out damage from Taurox the Brassbull, who actually does flaming damage. Now for the Beastmen units, we have a mixture of Ungor herds and Ungor spear herds in the front line. At the back, we have some Ungor raiders protected by a lot of mobility here. Chaos Warhounds of Poison, Razor Gore herds, we have some unbreakable anchor of a Chaos Spawn, and at the back, Centaurs. Now for leadership, we have the Bray Shaman of Wild, who brings in Traitorkin, and the Bray Shaman of Death bringing in Spirit Leech. And leadership, we have Taurox the Brassbull, however not exactly the best pick against the High Elves, as the High Elves does have a lot of flame resistance, especially against such a heavy cavalry rush build with the Dragon Princes, the elite cavalry of the High Elves, coming in with 70% fire resistance coupled with physical resistance of 20%. That's a 90% physical flame resistance. That means Taurox the Brassbull will only be able to do 10% damage to the Dragon Princes and a little over half damage to Tyrion. Facing up so much flame resistance, that's going to be quite a bit of a questionable damage output for the Beastmen. Of course, the Manticores and all these monsters might still be able to drag down the High Elf cavalry in melee, but that's going to be a question that we have to wait and see. Now as the battle begins, we have the Mage of High and also the Mage of Light charging in with their chariots, trying to get some free damage before the main engagement begins. Same goes for Tyrion charging in with his horse, getting his hands bloodied. Basically a quick hit and run tactic, swiftly pulling out before the Ungor herds are able to surround them. The Ungor herds took quite a few casualties as they are not exactly braced for their charge impact. Over here on the left, we have the Dragon Princes already charging into combat. But very nice micro from the ThePhoenixKing here, pulling them back before they can get bogged into melee by the Beastmen infantry, preventing the Manticore and Taurox to be able to swoop down and catch up, while the Shadow Warriors utilizing their superior speed, just dashing backwards, trying to dish out some nice missile damage as they are running away from all these melee infantry. On the other hand, recognizing the dangers of Traitorkin on that wild shaman, the mages of the High Elves are putting up a consistent missile bombardment onto the poor caster, doing significant damage from afar. And now in the front line, Tyrion here soloing the Manticore, easily taking apart this feral beast. On the other side, we see Taurox the Brassbull doing very limited damage to the Dragon Princes as expected, while the Dragon Princes already dishing out massive damage on the Ungor herds, especially with the Sun Fang blowing up all these Ungor herds who were pinned in and blobbed up by the Dragon Princes. Though they are now pulling away from the engagement as they are taking quite some damage, instead some Reavers charged in and took their place. Over on this flank, the cavalry are also smashing in, doing quite a bit of damage to these unbraced Ungor herds. Same goes for the Mage on chariots. Now with the cover of the Illyrian Reavers, the Dragon Princes are able to pull out, circle around, and charge straight into these Beastmen units who are blobbing up, desperately trying to overload these poor Illyrian Reavers. Yes, they routed the Reavers, but they're subjected to the devastating charge of the Dragon Princes, suffering massive damage due to their lack of armor. Back into the middle, we have Tyrion acting as a one-man anchor. Despite surrounded by monsters, by Chaos Spawns, by Taurox, even surrounded by Chaos Warhounds who's constantly debuffing him with poison, Tyrion refuses to falter with his amazing combat stats and heavy armor, standing firm, holding back all these Beastmen units. High Elves don't need frontline, Tyrion is the frontline. Seeing the blob is doing nothing to Tyrion, the Beastman player is pulling out some units. Chaos Warhounds trying to get to the Shadow Warriors, but they are decent in melee combat. They are able to beat back the Chaos Warhounds, especially with some support from the cavalry. Now with the one-man anchor in the middle there, Tyrion, the true champion of Ulthuan, single-handedly pinning in all these monstrosities of the Beastmen. The Dragon Princes are able to charge in, hammer home, lancing down all these unarmored Chaos Spawns, doing massive impact damage. Also supporting the friendly units against the Manticore, who is trying to snipe out the Mage of Light. And now the Manticore is getting sniped by the Mage of High instead, who is on a chariot having decent weapon strength overall, backstabbing the Manticore to death. Now more Chaos Spawns and the Feral Manticore are diving into combat, trying to utilize some of that charge bonus on Tyrion to break him, however they just don't have enough melee power. Yes, the Manticore is doing some nice damage, but Tyrion is still holding firm, and remember, Star of Avalon isn't popped just yet, so he still have a lot of healing potential yet. And before Tyrion is even reaching that kind of critical health level, Reavers have already arrived, charging into battle, supporting the lone Tyrion in combat, pushing away the single entities. So Taurox and the Manticore decided to pull back to snipe the mages instead. But that also created a huge blob of Beastmen unit, allowing Tyrion to put a beautiful Sunfang roasting all these Beastmen units, who are piling on top of each other, perfect target for a breath spell. Now Taurox turns around trying to engage Tyrion here, however Tyrion is just not phased by his attack at all, and with the Mage of High casting a Soul Quench point blank, the Brass Bull is slain by Tyrion with his sword. Taurox the Brass Bull is no more as he collapses into the patch of snow, bloodied by friend and foe. And with that, the Beastmen army crumbles on its own as army losses kicks in. Tyrion emerged victorious in this conflict, proving himself to be the ultimate champion of Ulthuan, defeating the Beastmen incursion. Now before we go into the post-battle analysis, I'd like to say a big thanks to ThePhoenixKing for sending in the quality replay, both players putting up an incredible fight, an entertaining game to watch for sure. And for viewers who enjoy the content, remember to hit the like and subscribe to get notified every time I upload a new video. It will be ranging from battle replays like this one, wild army builds, or tips and strategies for multiplayer. And if you want to showcase your replay, feel free to drop by my Discord or send me an email with the replay file attached. I'll be sure to check it out. Now let's have a look at the army performances. The ThePhoenixKing here going in for a ballsy all-cav build here with only 2 missile infantry. The Shadow Warriors doing massive damage with their accurate bowfire. Beastmen units were pinned down by the cavalry, and without armor to mitigate all that missile damage, they basically take full damage from the Shadow Warriors. The Illyrian Reavers, they're not able to do too much damage except this one. 607 damage value, 137 kills. The rest of them got worn down in the battle of attrition against the overwhelming numbers of Beastmen units, the Ungor herds, the Chaos Warhounds, the monsters bashing these Illyrian Reavers into the ground. They were basically bodies to buy time for the Dragon Princes to dish out the charge damage, and also Tyrion to hack apart the Beastmen units. Silverhams, same goes for them. They are a little bit tankier, but still under Taurox might, and also the Razor Gore herds bringing in some very cost-efficient armor piercing. They got one down pretty quickly as well. As for the Dragon Princes, this one didn't do too much damage, only 687 value, but the other one, 1100 value there. Absolutely tanking a lot of damage from the lowly Ungor herds, and using that massive charge bonus of their lances to pin down all these Beastmen units and slaughter them to the last man. Now for Tyrion, the MVP of this game. One-man army pinning down Taurox, the Chaos Spawn, using the Sunfang to blow up all these Beastmen chaff. Definitely the MVP of the game, especially with his amazing dueling power, able to solo Taurox the Brass Bull, snipe out one of the Manticores, and just being the one-man linchpin, holding back an entire Beastmen army by himself. The mages did some damage, especially with their magic missile attacks, chipping away the health of one of the Bray Shaman, and also using Soul Quench to help Tyrion do the final blow to Taurox the Brass Bull. Overall, the ThePhoenixKing has some really on-point micro today, with the Dragon Princes and the rest of the cavalry just switching in and out between cycle charging. He charges in the Dragon Princes first, then when the charge bonus wears off, Illyrian Reavers were charged into melee combat, allowing the Dragon Princes to pull out and cycle charge once again, just constantly rotating the cavalry units, allowing their charge bonus to be maximized and dish out maximum damage against the Beastmen units. This kind of rotating cycle charge demands so much in your micro, I never even dare to try this kind of build. Big props to ThePhoenixKing showing us such a wild build and his exceptional control in his cavalry. Now for the Beastmen units, Taurox the Brass Bull wasn't able to do too much damage here, as most of his flaming damage was mitigated by the Dragon Princes as well as Tyrion's fire resistance. The Shaman here, the deaf one, did some spirit leeching on the Dragon Princes, but the Bray Shaman of WoW wasn't able to use the Traitorkin, was rather limited in terms of damage output. Now Ungor herds, they were actually lanced down by all the shock cav and really wasn't able to do too much damage due to the methodical cycle charging between different cavalry units. Ungor raiders, they actually got sniped out by the Shadow Warriors, as their missile damage wasn't enough to overcome the sniping fire from the Shadow Warriors. The Centaurs, Warhounds, and Razor Gore herds all got smashed pretty hard by the Dragon Princes, the Illyrian Reavers, due to their low armor. Yes, the Reavers are rather squishy, but they are still good shock cav after all. Their damage dealing capacity is definitely solid. Mantigores wasn't able to do too much damage, same goes for the Chaos Spawn, as they were getting cycle charged and sniped to death by all the cavalry as well as the Shadow Warriors. Tyrion there with the amazing combat stats was able to fend off all these monsters alone, as well as Taurox the Brass Bull. Truly a one-man army among the High Elf roster. And yeah, that's basically it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video and thank you for watching. Tactical Lich, signing out.